All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. Friday night, quick discussion, NFL Week 2 Sunday and Monday games. Start with the 49ers and Bengals. This week, on September 11th, we had the death of a former Cincinnati Bengal. His name was Terrell. Mind you, Terrell Owens, who played for the Niners and Bengals. He was 38 years old. And this week, there's a 38 on the board that stands out. The Bengal who was killed this week, supposedly September 11th, he was killed in the Bay Area. And, of course, the Bengals are hosting the 49ers from the Bay Area. So I wanted to see if there was a 38 on the board in this game. And it turns out there is. Dalton could get his 38th home win this week. And I thought, is that a coincidence? If Dalton did win this week, he'd get his 68th regular season win. San Francisco, 68, and he'd get his 38th home win after the death of this 38-year-old Bengal. And next week he plays Buffalo Bills. Buffalo, New York, 69. If he won this week, he'd have a chance at his 69th win next week. The other thing that stands out is Jimmy G is 9-2 in the regular season. And I was looking down the road. After this week's game, he plays the Steelers. Steelers equals 103. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is 103. If Jimmy G splits his next two games, he'll be 10-3 by the end of the Steelers game. And that Steelers game is back in San Francisco. If Jimmy G lost to the Bengals and then beat the Steelers, he'd be 10-3, like Steelers is 103. And if he won back in San Francisco, he'd be 5-0. Just like how the 49ers used to be 5-0 in Super Bowls before they lost to the Ravens. Pittsburgh equals 50, San Francisco 50. So it seems like a perfect team to become 5-0 against. And the name of the man who died this weekend, or not this weekend, but September 11th this week, his name in the most pure cipher sums to 93. Jimmy G, if he loses, will be 9-3. If you use the roll for S, it is also 102 like week 2. There is a chance Jimmy G could get to 10-2. But looking at this week and next week, I'm thinking, man, it would be perfect. It would be perfect if he was 10-3 against the Steelers. And I'll just show you this again. Steelers is 103. So we'd have to split the next two. Oh, Steelers is also 50 like Pittsburgh. And then he could become 5-0 at home. I'll add that to the note right here about the 5-0 thing. Steelers is 50. Pittsburgh 50, San Francisco 50, Steelers 50. So to me, that looks like a progression that makes a lot of sense. So perhaps the 49ers lose this week at Cincinnati. Hard to ignore Dalton going for his 38th regular season win. Don't forget the word gold equals 38. The 49ers are named after the gold rush. And when the Super Bowl 50 was in San Francisco, it was on the 38th day of the year. The team from Colorado won it. Colorado 38, Colorado the 38th state. Dalton could also stay on 55 all-time losses. San Francisco 49ers equals 55. So, leaning Bengals there. Chargers at Lions. This game's got me scratching my head. I'm thinking, man, could the Lions upset at the Chargers? I'm expecting big things from the Chargers this year. Also, let me comment on the lines and over-unders for each of these games. The over-under in the 49ers and Bengals game is at 45. You got the date numerology that breaks down to 9. 45 is the 9th triangular number. Cincinnati's 51. San Francisco's 50. I wonder if it could get to the over, but not a real clear read on that one. The over-under's at 47 for the Lions game. Ford Field is 47. Chargers is 47. Henry Ford died on April 7th in the year 47. The Clippers are the Chargers are a 2.5-point favorite, which I think is going to have a lot of people betting on the Chargers with that thin of a line. I think this is the kind of game Vegas could potentially clean up on. The Chargers are 7-4 versus the Lions. Detroit Lions is 74. San Diego 74. Of course, the Chargers used to be in San Diego. The Chargers are 2-4 at the Lions. That means the Lions are 4-2 at home versus the Chargers. We do have this 43 date numerology. If the Chargers won, the Lions would be 4-3 at home. But Chargers is also 52. We got a caller. Caller?
Hey, what's up, Zach?
What's up, man?
Hey, just want to play devil's advocate for the Niners in that game. Jimmy Garoppolo is 7-2 as a 49ers quarterback. He could improve to 8-2 in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Cincinnati, Ohio's 82.
That's a good observation if you look at just his 49er stats. He's 7-2 with the Niners, is that right?
Because overall, he played 2 games with the Patriots. I don't know if we should even count those. I mean, I know it goes into the overall record, but I think the regular season record with the 49ers would be more important to focus on.
Well, I was seeing how perfect it all lines up with the Steelers game next week. So
I mean, for the 103 thing you're talking about?
And the 50 thing.
Yeah. Well, the 50 could still come through because that's a home game, and he would be 5-0 against the Steelers.
All those home stats, though, some of those home stats might be with the Patriots in there.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, his name equals 52. 49ers can improve to 5-2 versus the Bengals, and the Bengals would, in reflection of that, be 2-5 versus 49ers. So I'm thinking that they're going to actually win that game.
Well, that is interesting. I'm just looking at the death of that 38-year-old Bengal in the Bay Area and how Dalton's going for his 38th home win. So.
Yeah, that could come through, huh? All right. Well, yeah, I'm sticking with my guns. I think the Niners are going to win it.
Okay. All right. Yep. Good idea, man. All right. Appreciate it. All right. I will add the note here about Jimmy G. That is a good point about his record just with the 49ers. Hold on. I need it here. Jimmy G is 7-2 with 49ers. And Cincinnati, Ohio is 82. So, his all-time stats make a lot of sense with this upcoming Steelers ritual. So, but yeah, that is interesting with the 49er stats. So, all right, we'll talk about it more tomorrow. I'll think more about it, but I was looking at this week in the Steelers and how perfect it will be. All right, Chargers and Lions. So the Chargers are 7-4 versus the Lions, and Detroit Lions equals 74. So does San Diego, the old city. And the date numerology suggests the Chargers could improve to 4, or the Lions could fall to 4-3 against the Chargers at home. Chargers is 43. You got the 43 date numerology. Ford's 43. It's Ford Field. Rivers' next regular season loss is 91, and Detroit is 91. So that definitely stands out. And Rivers is 2-1 versus the Lions. If he lost, he'd be 2-2. Ford Field 79, the 22nd prime. Chargers is 79 as well. Caller?
Hey, how you?
Yeah, what's up, man?
What's going on? You live?
Yeah, I'm live right now.
Okay. I'm gonna call you back then.
All right, later, man.
All right.
Okay. Lynn, let's see. He is 22-12 in the regular season. If he got his 23rd regular season win, Detroit, Michigan is 83, the 23rd prime. The city's on the 83rd meridian. So that 91st loss for Rivers potentially does stand out. Detroit is 91. And Stafford, his next all-time loss is 79, but I prefer to look just to the regular season. In this case, though, I didn't really see any syncs with the regular season and the current week's opponent. I also tried looking down the road for each quarterback. Some I was able to see things, some not. So just what looks funny to me about this game is this line. This line doesn't look right to me. Seems like the Chargers should be a bigger favorite at the Lions. And Lions are always an interesting team. So that Rivers' 91st loss was the stat. Because it is very much a QB-driven league, and a lot of times the QB stats are right on point. So I think there's a chance the Lions could steal one, but Then another party's going, but man, I'm expecting a really nice season from the Chargers. So, Patriots did lose at the Lions last year. I believe it was in Week 3, if I'm not mistaken, Sunday Night Football, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. So, losing at the Lions doesn't mean your Super Bowl hopes are over. That's for sure. The Vikings at the Packers. Remember, this game comes 112 days after the death of Bart Starr. The game's on the 15th of the month. Bart Starr wore the number 15. It's Rodgers' 15th season. Green Bay's a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under's at 45. Remember, 45 is the 9th triangular number, and all the primary date numerology breaks down to 9. It's the 9th month. You got the 63 date numerology, Aaron Rodgers 63. You got the 36 date numerology, Bart Starr's 36. The Week 16 game, the rematch between these teams, they're going to play again in Week 16. That'll be on a date with 54 numerology. I wonder if the Vikings get their 54th win versus the Packers in the regular season on the 54 date numerology in Week 16. It just seems this game's all about Bart Starr to me, and I don't know why the Vikings would win in a Bart Starr, synced game. This game's on Zimmer's 103rd day of his age. Remember, that was the ritual number Week 1 Bears and Packers. The 10-3 score, a span of 103 days from the death of Bart Starr. You had that State Farm commercial, State Farm's 103, the first ever NFL game, the 103rd day of the year. Or, not, excuse me, it was on October 3rd, 10-3, not the 103rd day of the year. But I find it interesting that Zimmer, the game will be on his 103rd day of his age. And the game's also 27 days after Cousins' birthday. 103 is the 27th prime, or it's his 28th day of his age. Packers 28. What Cousins does have going in this game is he has a shot at his 36th win in the regular season on the 36th date numerology. He plays the Raiders next week in Minnesota. If he lost, he'd pick up his 38th regular season win going back to Minnesota. Raiders and Minnesota sum to 38. So he could go back to Minnesota on those 38 losses. Maybe stay on it against the Raiders. Cousins for his career is 2-0-1 versus the Packers. If he lost, he'd be 2-1-1, like 2-11, the 47th prime. Remember, the first Super Bowl season was the 47th season of the NFL. Bart Starr was the MVP. So I'd see a tribute in that. And with regards to Rodgers, he can get his 102nd win in the regular season. Week 2 equals 102. So a good week for the 102nd win. And let's see. He can get his 111th win all time. Minneapolis, Minnesota does have that 111 connection. Last year you saw the Buffalo Bills upset in the 111 ritual of the Vikings. I noticed if Rodgers won his next 3 games, he would get he'd get his 113th win all time over the Eagles. Eagles equals 113. So I do prefer the regular season stats to the all-time stats, but it is there. He'd have to win 3 straight games to do it. And Rodgers is 12-8-1 versus the Vikings for his career. Week 2. Guess I didn't write it up here, but I'll write it now. 2 equals 13. He could get his 13th win over the Vikings in Week 2. And if he does split this year, if he's 13-9, that makes sense because Green Bay's 139. We talked about how the next game between the Vikings and Packers is on a 54-date numerology, and the Vikings could get their 54th win in that one. Rodgers is 7-2-1 at home and 6-2-1 in starts. Again, Pro Football Reference will add plus a game if a QB made an appearance. So back when Favre was the QB, Rodgers came in late in the game, so he got credited with one of the wins. That's probably my biggest concern about Rodgers is you have this 63 date numerology, and he could become 6-3 in the win and loss column at home against the Vikings. So again, I just don't see, though, how the Packers could lose with this game synced up with the death of Bart Starr. So, unless that ends up being a bad sign for the Packers season, but I I don't know, that week 1 win was a perfect ritual. And again, we talked about how Green Bay Packers equals 150. This Super Bowl in Roman numerals, the Gematria is 150. That first game was 150 days before the Super Bowl. So again, my 2 Super Bowl scenarios I'm marinating on right now, my 2 favorite ones in my mind are a potential Packers-Chiefs rematch of Super Bowl 1 or the Saints and the Chargers. But I got to think more about that because I realize how the Super Bowls perfectly sync with the birthday of Robert Kraft, which makes me a little bit antsy. And there's a couple other scenarios to think about. But just from what I've seen so far, both of those scenarios really marinating. So, can Rodgers win 3 straight to get his 113th all-time win over the Eagles? I'm watching for that. The Colts and the Titans. Andrew Luck used to own the Titans, but Andrew Luck is gone. So, the Colts are 33-15 versus the Titans in the regular season. Tennessee is 34. Makes me wonder if they will get that 34th win in Tennessee. Wouldn't even necessarily have to come this season. The Colts are 14-8 at the Titans. Loss would make them 14-9. A win would make them 15-8. Brissett is 5-13 in the regular season and all time. He's 1-7 away. You do have 27-date numerology. Chance he could get, to 2-7 away on the 27 date. 13's the 6th prime number. He could have a prime number relationship if he won. He'd be 6-13. But let's not forget that Titans equals 43. Last week, I was leaning towards the Browns getting beat by the Titans because of the fact that Mayfield could become 4-3 at home. And I said that'll just be the punch in the gut for all these people who put all this money on the Browns to win the Super Bowl, following the media hype. And that's exactly what it ended up being. And not only that, but the Titans won with 43 points. So 43 is the 14th prime. Brissett could get his 14th regular season loss for the Titans. Keep in mind there's 43-date numerology, 43 14th prime. If Brissett loses this week and next week, if the Colts started off 0-3, he'd get his 15th loss, and next week he plays Atlanta. Atlanta's 15. So that is definitely something to consider. Brissett's 1-2 versus the Titans, 0-1 at Tennessee. Titans does have the 79 Gematria as well, the 22nd prime if he improved to 2-2. But looking down the road, I'm thinking, man, if the Colts do start 0-3, Brissett would get his 15th loss against a perfect opponent. So that stands out. And with regards to Mariota, against the Colts, he's 1-2 at home. So with a win, he'd improve to 2-2. Again, Titans is 79, the 22nd prime. The Colts are 4-2 versus Mariota in Tennessee. That means, from Mariota's perspective, they could fall to 4-3 against him on the 43-day. Titans 43. So, looking down the road, the Brissett riddle stood out to me. The Colts start 0-3 this year. Vrabel in the offseason said he would give up his penis for the Super Bowl. Remember, Titans are one of 5 teams that have the 54 connection. Okay, we got a caller here. Caller?
Hey, Zach. I looked at the record for Kyle Shanahan. He's 9-13 on the road, and this is going to be the 23rd game on the road. So maybe he does stay on 9 wins.
9-13 on the road. So yeah, 23rd game, 9th prime. Hey man, I don't want to be the guy who took you off your pick if you really liked them to win, but I'm just saying I saw that 38-year-old guy in the Bay Area, and I went back and looked at my notes, and I said, look at that, Dalton can get his 38th win.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a few things on both sides, and I'm also a 49ers fan, so I think I'm leaning more towards that because I live here in the Bay Area.
My dad would like you. My dad's a big Niners fan.
I want to see them win, but I mean, that 9 and 23 prime relationship, that's like one of the strongest ones we always see in sports.
Garoppolo would become 9-3 with a loss, and the name of the man who died this week is 93.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy. And then also, I think in that Titans game, too, this is going to be the 23rd matchup that the Colts have played in Tennessee, and I think they could stay on 9 wins in that game.
You're saying the Colts could stay on their 9th win. Wait, Colts are 14-8 at Titans in regular season. Actually,
they get the 9th loss. That's what I was looking at.
That is a great point there. Yep. Great prime number recognition. Mm-hmm.
All right, man.
All right, good one. I got to catch that. I got to admit, you guys, because I don't mean to make excuses, but because I have been doing this on the grind for, I don't know, how long's it been? I mean, I haven't taken, there's been a few days where I didn't have a live stream, but I haven't taken a day off from grinding and decoding the games all day since the end of March. So, I mean, I don't know how long that is. It's been 150 straight days of decoding. So my mind is a little bit tired, but all right. So yeah, that's a good point though about 23 the 9th prime, and then that would go with the Colts losing as well. So I just think that the Titans have been getting owned in the era of luck, so maybe it's kind of turning over another coin here. And again, just looking with Brissett down the road, could be a rough start for the Colts. Maybe they play teams tough, but just get edged out. Okay. The Patriots and Dolphins game. Tom Brady has a losing record in Miami. Last year he lost in what they called the Miami Miracle. Not sure that's going to happen this year. There is a small narrative for it. But here's the deal. Tom Brady, his next win in the regular season is 209. And Miami Dolphins is 209. So he can get his 209th regular season win against the most perfect team in the league. He could also get his 43rd away loss. Dolphins is 43, so is Florida, so is football. But I was looking down the road for Brady. Remember, week 1 was a big 50 ritual. He became 5-0 at home versus the Steelers. Brady's 50. Pittsburgh's 50. Steelers is 50, which I forgot. But if Brady began 5-0 this year, he would start out 5-0 against Washington. Well, he would become 5-0 by beating Washington. So I'm thinking, that looks a little too well scheduled. Week 1 was about 50. Why wouldn't week 5 be about 50 for Brady? And they have a super easy schedule, the Patriots. I'd say this is the hardest game on the schedule for them at Miami this week, even though Miami got slaughtered last week, just because Brady has a losing record in Miami. He's 7-10 in Miami for his career, and if he lost, he'd be 7-11, kind of those magic numbers, right? So, I'm gonna. I mean, Dolphins would be a huge payout if they won this week. It's not out of the question, but again, I like the full team name when it lines up with the QB's record as opposed to just one part of the name. And if I remember right, the Miami Miracle was because of Rob Gronkowski last year, and if I remember right, it was 209 days from Rob Gronkowski's birthday. He was on the field for the play. He shouldn't have been on there. He was the guy that let the man get by him to win the touchdown. He tripped on his shoelaces. So anyway, I got to assume Brady picks up that 209th win. And I do like the fact that if he begins 5-0, it's against a team that sums to 50. And that would be a better start than they had last year. Remember, the Patriots kind of struggled early in the season last year. But looks like maybe not so much. And you know what I haven't even considered? Is Antonio Brown playing this weekend? What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Just doing the live stream.
Oh, shit, you're live right now? Yeah, I'll tell you back later, man. I got some things to talk about Bohemian Grove and, children being kidnapped and all that type of shit and my whole youth and all that. It's crazy, but, yeah, I don't know. You want me to go into it right now, or?
Well, we're doing football right now. I'll call you back, man.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, we'll talk later.
All right.
Peace out, man.
All right, take care. All right, I want to see how many days it is from Brown's birthday to this game. 67 days or his 68th day of his age. Oh, yeah, and we talked about that. Rape is 68, right? Because he got accused of rape. And from the date of the accused rape to to his first day with the Patriots, September 7th, the day that he agreed to terms. That was 68 weeks from the accused rape date to the signing. Sick jokes. And that whole rape thing is synced up with the Super Bowl as well, so... Fitz could stay on 50, that's Fitz magic. He could stay on 50 all-time wins against Brady as well. Again, the regular season stats are better. If Fitz lost, he'd be 2-4 at home versus the Patriots. Or excuse me, if Fitz lost, he'd be 2-5 at home versus the Patriots. Dolphins equals 97, the 25th prime, a bit like 2-5, 25. Caller?
Hey, what's going on, Zach?
What's up, man?
Hey, what's up? Hey, I don't know if you remember, I called you last week about the iZod commercial.
Yeah, you did.
I'm not sure if you had time to, check it out, but if you want to type it on Google, it's spelled E-Y-E and then Z-A-W-D, iZod. If you check out Aaron Rodgers' Twitter...
I thought it was I-Z-O-D.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's how you spell it, but they're spelling it E-Y-E-Z-A-W-D, and it sums to 100.
Oh, it's like I see that. And 35, like Rodgers' age, which is how many points the Packers won the first Super Bowl with.
Say it again?
The Packers won the first Super Bowl with 35 points. Rodgers, 35 years old to start this year, and I just see that the way they spelled iZod, it does sum to 135.
And 35, okay. And I don't know if you checked out did you check out the commercial? Or?
I did. I need to do some more work on it, though, but yeah.
Hey, man, check it out. I'm telling you, man, I think this is my lock of the year, man. I'm going to take the Packers. It's just, like, there's too much connection. There's a 100 connection. I remember the caller was talking about Saturday Night Live, that sums to 100. Colin Jones, 54. And then you got the iZod commercial that sums to 54. And then you spelled E-Y-E-Z-A-W-D sums to 100. So
right.
I think the Packers are going to go to the Super Bowl, man. So if you want to check out his Twitter, he kind of like, he hashtags iZod. He spells it out E-Y-E-Z-A-W-D. And that sums to 100. So, yeah, man, that's my pick, man. So just look more into it,
I will. Well, I hear you, man. It is a really great riddle, so it is very, very possible.
Yeah, man. But, yeah, man, I just want to call in and, I'll stay tuned during your live stream.
All right, appreciate it, man. Thanks.
All right, man. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Okay, so... Talked about this last week. Manning, this week he could get his 117th regular season win. And Buffalo Bills equals 117. Interestingly enough, the game's 117 days after Josh Allen's birthday, too. Buffalo Bills 117, Manning's 117. If Allen loses, he'll be 2-5 away for his career. Giants is 25 in the most pure cipher. If you use the roll for S, Giants is also 34, but that 25 hits a lot harder. And it's a perfect team for Manning to get his 117th win against. Manning can also get his 63rd all-time home win in Buffalo's 63. So the regular season and the all-time sync up here with the Buffalo win. He's 3-0 versus the Bills, 1-0 at home. Shermer's the concern. He could get his 36th loss in the regular season, 36 date numerology, and Buffalo's 36, but I'm telling you, if you lead with the coaches before the QBs, you will get burned. The leagues are very centered around the QBs, especially the bigger name QBs. It's just like why last night I was really feeling the Panthers until I saw that stat about Cam Newton going for his 8th straight loss, and I was just like, oh my God, I feel like, it felt like the whole rug got pulled. I just knew it when I saw that. I should have just switched my entire pick just on the fly, man, because those streaks at 8, they just keep coming and coming and coming. So 19 is the 8th prime. It's 2019. But we did say that we didn't think Carolina was going to cover. That was our read all week, so it was okay. But, yeah, QBs is largely where it's at. But when you can get a sync with the QB and the coach, that's always really positive. Just like how we had that last week with the Cowboys, a game I should not have come off of. Let's see. Seahawks and Steelers. So this is going to be the second time these teams have played each other in the Russell Wilson era. The last time they played each other was on Russell Wilson's birthday, and the Seahawks won in Seattle. What's interesting about this week's game is it's on Pete Carroll's birthday. So I'm like, I've seen this before. I have seen this before. And it was Super Bowl 40. The Steelers beat the Seahawks. Steelers won 21-10, 31 points. Steelers equals, I don't know why I wrote 40. Steelers equals 31. So 31 points in Super Bowl 40. That game was 710 weeks before this game. The over-under's at 46.5. Hard to call because Pittsburgh's 50, Seattle Seahawks is 43. Pittsburgh's a 3.5-point favorite. This game's a tough one. I don't have a read on this. Well, I can show you what I'm looking at, but I can't make a call on this one. There's a part of me just wondering if the Seahawks are going to punk the Steelers and put them in an 0-2 hole. If the Seahawks did win, they'd be 10-8 versus the Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers equals 108, so they could get to 10-8 against them. However, the Seahawks are 2-7 at the Steelers in the regular season, and Seattle's 28-82. So that's, pick tough to choose between. Russell Wilson, his next all-time win is 85. Pittsburgh's 58. The reflection. He's on 36 regular season losses. He could stay on 36 on the 36 date numerology. He's also at 31 away wins, though, and that's a big number with the Steelers. He could stay on 31 away wins as well, or stay on 36 total losses in the regular season. Wilson's next loss will be 37, and I'm thinking the Seahawks are going to lose next week to the Saints in Seattle on the remember the Beastquake game? Hold on, let me show you why I'm thinking that real quick. What's going on here? Let's try this another way. Oh, it's because I'm on the wrong one. My fault. No wonder I can't get it to work. Okay, this is what I want to show you about next week's game with the Saints. Right here. The Seahawks are 4-3 versus the Saints at home. 4-3, right? If they lose, they'll be 4-4. Seattle's 44 and Saints is 44. So that just looks right, that the Seahawks lose next week at home to the Saints. And what that has me thinking is, well, if the Seahawks didn't lose, if Russell Wilson didn't lose this week, he could pick up his 37th career loss next week against the Saints, because Saints does equal 37 when you use the rules for S. Saints is 19 in the most pure cipher, like how the Super Bowl is on the 19th day of Breeze's age. Use the rules for S, Saints is 37. And both numbers do matter. Wilson's 1-0 versus the Steelers. Again, he won on his birthday. Now he plays on Pete Carroll's birthday. How old's Pete Carroll going to turn? Pete will turn 68. Seattle, Washington, 68 in the most pure cipher. Big Ben, he could get his 87th home win all-time. Seahawks is 87, so is Week 2. Again, I do prefer the regular season stats. In the regular season, he could get his 28th home loss, and Seattle's 28. So the regular season stats a little bit incriminating for Big Ben. And, Russell Wilson, you can make an argument either way. The head-to-head record, you can make an argument either way. There is a narrative for a Seattle upset, absolutely, because if I'm right about the Seahawks losing next week, it would make sense for that to be the team that he got his 37th regular season loss against. So, and we have more time to think about this, but I'm just putting out my thoughts there. Maybe somebody with a more rested mind can take it the distance. All right, the Cowboys and the Redskins. Let's see here. This game, or I guess not to that part yet. Caller?
Hey, just a quick observation. With that Thursday night game, I'm wondering if this week we'll have a 77 tribute throughout the week.
Well, If that's the case, Wilson could get his 77th regular season win. And I think you're new here, but I have pointed out in the past that sometimes the numbers that you see come up big in Thursday Night Football do carry throughout the whole NFL week. So that is possible.
Yeah, no, I started following you in midway through the season last year.
Okay, so you probably heard me say that before. So yeah, that is possible.
Yeah. I was just trying to connect with, because Thursday night last night with the fantasy and the 77 and the hurricane, it's like I think they're trying to tell us something for this week.
Yeah, it very well could be. So and you know what? Seattle had a huge lightning storm last weekend.
Yep.
That was synced up with the Huskies game. So
yeah, and lightning equals 77.
Lightning storm
Wilson gets to 77.
Lightning storm is 77, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think maybe they pull that win out on Pete Carroll's birthday.
Because it is really funny that the two meetings in the Russell Wilson era are on his birthday and Pete Carroll's birthday, so they're obviously doing something there with that.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, man.
All right, yep, thanks. Let me double check the numbers on birthday. I know it equals 42. I think it's 48 as well. It's also 87 and 129. You know what? Look at birthday and look at Seahawks. You see that? 87, 87, 129, 129, 48, 48. I got to make a note about that. It goes 48, 87, 129. Seahawks equals 48. Remember, the Seahawks won Super Bowl 48. They scored 43 points. Seattle Seahawks 43. So anyway, Seattle definitely has a sneaky narrative there. All right, Cowboys at the Redskins. I'm just wondering if the Cowboys could do that thing where they lay an egg and deflate their fan base. Early in the season, a lot of goofy things can happen. The over-under's at 45.5. Again, we have this date numerology of 9. 45 is the 9th triangular number. A lot of over-unders around 45 I noticed this week. And that's not an accident on the 9-date numerology, because if you add 1 through 9 together, it's 45. Dallas and Washington both equal 49. The game's also on Dak Prescott's 49th day of his age. So, could we get a score of 49 points? It's a thought. Okay. The Cowboys are 32 and 27 at the Redskins in the regular season. They could stay parked on there because it's 27 date numerology, but it's also the day leaving 107 days left in the year, which is the 28th prime. And I need to come back. I don't think I emphasized that with Big Ben. I forgot to write it down here. Day leaving 107 days left in the year, 28th prime. So Big Ben could get that 28th home loss, but there's also 27 date numerology. And don't forget that Seattle does equal 107 and 28. So, all right, but you could make an argument for the head-to-head either way. Cowboys, Redskins. This is going to be the 117th regular season match, which is interesting because Redskins is 117. Redskins played the Eagles real tough last week in Philadelphia. Got off to a big lead and then laid an egg in the second half. So, Case Keenum's not that bad of a QB. And honestly, Dak Prescott has no arm, man. I mean, I don't even understand how Dak Prescott's in the NFL the way he throws a football. Anyway, the game's on Prescott's 49th day of his age. Dallas and Washington both 49. The game's on Ezekiel Elliott's 56th day of his age, and Washington, D.C.'s 56. That's one to think about for fantasy there. I wonder if the Zeke has a big game. Let me see. Nothing was really screaming out to me about Dak's stats in light of this game. It will be his 53rd game all time. It's going to be his 50th game in the regular season. Washington's 50. Keenum Keenum could become 14-14 at home in the regular season. Dallas Cowboys is 43, the 14th prime. Or he could pick up his 27th regular season win on the 27 date. So that game, I'm gonna have to think more about that one. And trust me, all these games I looked up and down the schedule. I was trying to crack it, and I might be overlooking it, but right now that game's great territory. The Cardinals and the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, maybe a breakout season. ESPN ran that story, the year of the black quarterback. They had a picture of him and Patrick Mahomes shaking hands. And with regards to him playing the Cardinals this week, he played for the Louisville Cardinals. You might recall he had that breakout season as a 19-year-old after Muhammad Ali died, and Muhammad Ali, who's from Louisville, had the 19-mile funeral procession just before the football season started. And all that year, they had Lamar Jackson's birthday listed as the same day as Muhammad Ali's. And then they shifted his birthday by 10 days when he joined the NFL. For 2 years, it was up as the same birthday as Muhammad Ali. So it just makes me wonder, it's like, okay, what's this guy's real birthday? You mean to tell me for 2 years his birthday was misprinted? Anyway. The over-under in this game's 45.5. Maryland has that 47 connection. Baltimore is a 13.5 point favorite. Remember, you have a 43 date numerology 14th prime. That's a 2-touchdown game. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be pounding Baltimore to cover that based on what they did last week. So really watch the pregame to see where the public money is. I really do think that that's how they determine what spreads are, or determine the over and under and spread. I think it's why you want to know these numbers in real time, because oftentimes the game will end on a symbolic number, but they have options. And that's why you want to have out at your cheat sheet, be looking at your teams, just imagine, Cardinals games coming down the end, and you could see, you're looking at your numbers, you're like, okay, I see how the game could end on that right there. That'd make a lot of sense. You got the 63 date numerology, Cardinals equals 63, that type of thing, so. But Cardinals sums to 81 just using the alphabetic order. That's the point I want to get to. Lamar Jackson played for the Louisville Cardinals. This week he faces the Cardinals, and he can improve to 8-1 in the regular season. And I do very much expect that to happen. I think it's a big tribute to him. The biggest scare for Lamar Jackson would be falling to 4-1 at home, because that really is a big number in Baltimore. 41 shows up a lot. Any of you who follow the baseball work know how much it does. I just can't imagine it, though. I can't imagine the Ravens losing to the Cardinals at home. So the 8-1 is likely where it's at. Do they cover the spread? I'd use your situational betting for there. Off the top, if I had to go with a gut, well, I'd have to look at the money. But just because you have the 43 date numerology, the 14th prime, I think there is a chance. It's a 2-touchdown game. So Lamar Jackson, just another thing to consider is his next game is at Arrowhead Stadium against Patrick Mahomes. Really going to have to look into that game because, again, that was the ESPN story, the year of the black quarterback with pictures of Jackson and Mahomes. Arrowhead Stadium is 72. If Jackson lost this week, he would be 7-2 in the regular season going into Arrowhead. But I really think that 81 is going to play. So, oh yeah, here's the other thought that I had about Jackson. If he beats the Cardinals and improves to 8-1, and he lost his next 2 games, he'd fall to 8-3. Cleveland Browns is 83, football's 83, and if he lost his next 2 games after the Cardinals game, that's who he would be losing to. He'd be losing to the Cleveland Browns. Remember last year the Browns ended their losing streak against the Ravens. Of course, the old Browns team became the Ravens. And when they ended that losing streak last year, it was 216 days after Jim Brown's birthday. Cleveland's the 216 area code. So maybe they could drop that game in Kansas City. And let me check some out Kansas City real quick. Kansas City. No, that's not right. Okay. And to the Browns. All right. The Jaguars at Texans. The over-under here is at 43. Jacksonville equals 43. I suspect we'll see a score right around 43. So if it drops below that, and you know what? Some of these things actually might have changed because most of these screenshots are from the beginning of the week. Let's just see if it's changed. Oh, this has climbed right here to 46.5. Oh, Baltimore's a 13-point favorite now. Baltimore's 41 the 13th prime. This is still 43. Okay, so the Houston being an 8.5-point favorite, again, all of the date numerology breaks down to 9. So could we see a 9-point game? You might see a lot of 9-point games this weekend. Just like how yesterday we thought it might be a 6-point game. And it did end up being a 6-point game because all the date numerology broke down to 6. So if Houston does win, perhaps they cover. But again, keep an eye on pregame and see the way the public money is. Sometimes they do pay out to the public. But a lot of times if you see it very lopsided, it seems to go against the public. That's, casinos, they're not cheap. NRG Stadium also equals 45, the 9th triangular number for one more 9. Let's see. You got the 43 date numerology in this game as well, in addition to Jacksonville being 43. The Jaguars are 13-21 versus the Texans in the regular season. Oh, we got a caller here. Caller?
Hey, what's up, Zach? I walked away from the computer. Did you do the Chicago-Denver game already?
I'm not to it yet. I'm coming up on it.
Oh, okay. It's a point I want to make on that game. I was listening to Cowherd's show, and he said Denver, they last 36 games in week 1 or week 2 at home, they are like 33-3 in those games.
33-3 in what kind of games?
Like the last 36 games that's been week 1 or week 2 at home. It got to be week 1 or week 2 at home.
The Broncos are very good at home in those weeks.
Yeah, so basically the Broncos is good at home in September. Basically, they basically gonna win at week 1 at home or week 2 at home. So he said it was 33-3.
Okay. Well, that kind of goes in with what I was thinking. There's some things that, I'll talk about that. But that's a great tip. I wasn't aware of that, so I appreciate it.
But that game still is 50-50 though. So I guess because of that stat, you lean more toward the Broncos.
Well, I'll get to it in just a moment. I'm seeing if Trubisky splits his next 2 away games, he'll be 7-7 away in Washington, D.C. The land is 77. So I'm thinking he loses one of these next 2 away games. And I'll come up on it in a minute.
Okay, one more point. You already did the Jets Cleveland game?
That's Monday Night Football, but I like Cleveland.
Okay, one thing about that. What's up with the Jets quarterback with the mono?
That's Darnold.
Yeah, Donald. What's up with that?
It's a ritual.
Okay, I'll let you get back to it. I just wanted to make those 2 points.
All right, appreciate it, man.
Okay.
The Mayfield can get to 7-8 for his career. New York and Cleveland, some to 78. That's what the win. So I think it's going that way in that game. We'll get to it. But the Texans here. Okay, so the Jaguars are 13-21 versus the Texans. We do have a 43 date numerology, the 14th prime. It's possible they could pick up that 14th win this week. They could also stay on 13 because it's week 2. When you're out 2, it's 13. The Jaguars are 5-12 at the Texans as well. So they could stay on 13 wins and pick up the 13th loss at the Texans. Minshew's who's going to be the quarterback this week. Marone is 31-36 in the regular season. Game is on a 36 date numerology if he stayed on those 36 losses. Houston's 31-32. Deshaun Watson, he is 8-3 at home. And what's interesting is Jacksonville Jaguars does have the 84 Gematria. Carolina Panthers is also 84. And I think I forgot to write down here. I believe that's their next home game is against the Panthers after the Jaguars. Yeah, their next home game is against the Carolina Panthers, which I forgot to write here. Next home game. So there is a thought there that if he lost and became 8-4 at home, it would be against the perfect opponent, and then he'd have the right record going into the next home game. However, I've documented in the past, in years past, 93 rituals that go down in NRG Stadium. NRG equals 39, the reflection of 93. Construction began on that stadium March 9th. If you go back a few years where Tom Brady was suspended at the beginning of the season, there was this huge 93 ritual with the Patriots game versus the Texans, and Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback at the time, and the game was synced with the Super Bowl. And I was saying, just remember that because the Super Bowl 51's in this building later this year. That game was all about 93. So there's a part of me that's just going, like the Texans, I don't see them losing at home to the Jaguars right now. I mean, the Texans are a good team, but this is the kind of game that would shock a lot of gamblers too, especially with Minshew, the young guy coming in on the road. There are some numbers in the record, but I just know that 93 in NRG Stadium, I've seen it before. And O'Brien could get his 43rd regular season win as well. Jacksonville's 43 on the 43 day. So, and I need to write this too. Watson can get his 15th win on the 15th of the month. Just like how yesterday Winston stayed on the 12 losses, I believe, on the road on the 12th of the month. So the day of the month can definitely be important. Let's see. So we're going to go over all this more, but I just want to get all this out in front of you and just let you know what I'm thinking right now. That there is a riddle in the record for a Jacksonville upset, but I just don't feel that. I don't feel that. I feel more the 93 ritual. Watson becoming 9-3 at home in NRG. And I'm thinking if the spread stays at 8.5 and the money's not out of control, winning by 9 is probably in the cards too. So the Chiefs at Raiders, I think this is going to be the upset of the week right here. I think the Raiders are going to do this. And the reason why is because of Patrick Mahomes. Well, first of all, the Chiefs can stay at 63 wins in the regular season on the 63 date. That's one thing. But right here's the big one for me. Mahomes can fall to 7-4 away. Raiders is 74. Oakland, California is 74. Huge number with Oakland. Ken Stabler was the MVP in 74. And it's hard to ignore. Mahomes' next away game will be against the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions is 74, so he could go in against the Lions 7-4 away. The one thing to consider is if he won, he'd be 8-3. We know football's 83. Detroit, Michigan's 83. It's on the 83rd meridian. But I'm going to take the team names over that and this week's current location. 74 land with the Raiders. Like I said, I think the Raiders are just going to surprise people. They have a really hard schedule. All the odds are against them, but the NFL, you know what they do when they got new stadiums. They got to have a team help sell tickets, win or sell. So Raiders would be the talk of the NFL after week 2 if they started out 2-0 after last year, and if they beat, the Chiefs. So that 7-4 is just screaming at me. I know that's that big Oakland number. And then the other thing is Carr, he's 2-8 versus the Chiefs for his career. He could improve to 3-8 versus the Chiefs. This is going to be the Raiders' final. Consider the Raiders could sweep their division at home since it's the last year in Oakland. Give the fans a nice little treat before they leave them. So Carr can get to 3-8 versus the Chiefs. Raiders is 38. We saw the death of Cliff Branch 38 days before the Monday night game they won. And I like both those riddles. Both QBs can hit the Oakland Raiders numbers. So I'm digging that as the upset of the week right there. And yeah, those are my thoughts on that game. So Raiders to stun the Chiefs. You can just take the points with the Raiders. They're a 7-point underdog. Let's see if it's moved since it stayed right there. Over under at 54. Oh, and there is something about 54 too. The Chiefs' next loss all time is 54 in light of that over under. So Bears at Broncos. Bears at Broncos. The Bears are 7-8 versus the Broncos. If they won, they'd be 8-8. Denver, Colorado's 88. The Bears are 3-5 at the Broncos in the regular season. Bears equals 36 and 45, and we have the 36 date numerology, but the date numerology breaks down to 9. 45 is the 9th triangular number, so it's hard to go either way with that one. Denver Broncos also sums to 197, the 45th prime. So makes that a little bit tricky. The head-to-head record, though, could make sense if the Bears won. They'd be 8-8 versus the Broncos. And you know what? Pat Bullen, doesn't his full name equal 88? Let me get Pat Bullen's full name up here, who died this off cipher. All right, let me write that down. Patrick Dennis Bullen. I believe this game would be either 94 or 95 days after his death. Died June 13th. Remember, his death was synced with the Hall of Fame game, and then it was synced with last week's Raiders game. Let's see. So 94 days or a span of 95. And oops. Oh, wrong thing again. 94, 95. Okay. All right, but yeah, it's interesting that it could be 8-8. It's the year after his death. Bullen died June 13th, 94 days before this game. Span of 95. Okay. The game's on Trubisky's 27th day of his age. You got 27 date numerology. Bears is 27. Trubisky, what worries me about him is you have this 43 date numerology. I didn't write that down. Okay, so Trubisky, you have 43 date numerology. The 14th prime, Colorado equals 43, the 14th prime. He could get his 14th all-time loss. Again, I do like the regular season stats more. He could fall to 6-7 away all-time or in the regular season. Denver is 67. So his regular season away stats could make sense with a loss. He'd also get his 13th regular season loss. When you write out 2, it's 13. It's week 2. Trubisky's going to play his next away game in Washington, D.C., the land of 77, where the 77 riddles hit all the time. So that's something to think about with Trubisky. If he wins this week, probably loses at the Redskins. If he loses this week, likely wins at the Redskins. We see 77 land all the time in D.C. So that's the thing. You don't have to bet every game, but by following this and recognizing patterns, you can pick out your games and be selective. So 77 in DC, just one of those things that happens a whole lot. I did notice, though, let me put up the Bears' schedule. Here's a contradictory thing. Bears' schedule. So the Bears got the Broncos, and then at the Redskins, and then back home against the Vikings, and then at the Raiders, and then they host the Saints. So I wrote, if Trubisky wins 4 straight, he'll go into the Saints game with 19 wins. Or if he wins 3 out of 4, he would have a chance at his 19th win versus the Saints, because Saints is 19. So looking at the Bears' schedule, their game this week is very much winnable. The Broncos aren't a great team this year. The Redskins, they'll probably be a competitive team that maybe finishes, I don't know, with a record like 7-9 or 6-10. So it is possible that they could win 3 out of these next 4 games. Caller?
Hey, with that Raiders game, you know how Gruden's on 100 wins and 93 losses?
Uh-huh.
So Missouri is 93, and so is Minnesota.
Minneapolis, Minnesota's 93.
Or Minneapolis. So maybe he wins 3 in a row. Because remember you were talking about earlier how they might upset the Vikings next week. So maybe they start 3-0 and Gruden goes to 102 and 93 with his record.
Possible.
Yeah, I'm liking that. So this week I think they upset the Chiefs, and then next week with the Vikings, if it plays out that way.
Yeah, the riddle's there for the upset though this week. I like it.
All right, man.
All right, appreciate it. So, for Trubisky to, it's hard for me to see Trubisky not being 7-7 after the Washington D.C. game for his away record. I mean, it just always seems that number shows up in Washington D.C. So he's probably not going to win 4 straight. But if he won 3 out of the next 4, that likely means, because Saints in 19, that's another number that shows up a lot. So I'm thinking that is going to happen. So he's got to win 3 out of these next 4. Probably get the Vikings, probably beat the Vikings at home. Bears got a good defense. They should be a good team. They got something to prove after losing at home. This on the Raiders game could be tough. This game's on 10-6. Oakland, California's 106. But the only way that 19 thing can hit is if they win 3 out of these 4. So I'm thinking one of the losses is coming here or here. All right. A few more clues in the game. Flacco is 106-73 all time. Could get his 74th loss. Denver, Colorado, 74. Doesn't have to be this week. His next all-time win is 63. The game's on a 63-date numerology. I do prefer regular season stats, but nothing was really screaming out with the Bears. Actually, I see something that I overlooked. 61 18th prime Bears equals 18. So there actually was something there I was overlooking. So Flacco could get his 61st home win over the Bears. Bears is 18 in the most pure cipher. Perhaps that's how it is. Maybe they lose this game, go into Washington, win next week, get that 7-7 away record. And hold on, let me see something else real quick. I know Redskins has that 99 connection. Washington Redskins. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to keep thinking about this between now and the next live decode. So I'm sure some things will come to me that haven't yet. But that actually does stand out that Flacco can get the 61st regular season win at home over the Bears. I know that 18 hits with the Bears. All right. Saints and Rams. What jumps out to me about this game is, first of all, the over-under is 52. Los Angeles Rams is 52. This game is 239 days from the NFC Championship, which is the 52nd prime number. Los Angeles is 53. New Orleans is 54. You got an over-under hanging right around these numbers that connect to the team. Makes me think that maybe it does go over 52. Let's see if this has changed. Looks like it's 52. Again, watch that public money. If the public money's on the under, I think there's a chance it goes to 53 or 54. So, Kamara. Somebody called in yesterday about Kamara. I just want to look it up real quick in real time. Kamara number 41, July 25th. Let's see. What's he going to do on Thursday Night Football this year? Thursday Night Football is 257. Okay, so it's 52 days after Kamara's birthday or his 53rd day of his age, Los Angeles, and LA's 41, and he wears the number 41. Game is 52 days, span of 53 from Kamara's birthday. He could be a great fantasy performer this week. Los Angeles equals 53. LA equals 41. He is number 41. Remember last week? Number 41 guarded by 41 goes for 41 yards. Okay. So, the Saints are 33 and 41 versus the Rams. Speaking of 41, they could stay on 41 losses in LA, and this game is 34 weeks after the NFC Championship. So I'm thinking, do they pick up their 34th win in a vengeance game 34 weeks after the NFC Championship? You know, that seems like a narrative to me. The sweet revenge. The Saints are 34 and 42 versus the Rams all time. They could get the 43rd loss on the 43-date numerology, but again, I like the regular season stats a lot more than I like the all-time stats. I only go to all-time if there's nothing I see in the regular season. Or if the regular season and the all-time work together, I consider that as well. So, I just find it very interesting that this game is 34 weeks after, and the Saints can get the 34th win. If the Saints begin the season 3-0 this year, they'll face the Cowboys. That was a big game last year, Cowboys-Saints. It was a 29-10 riddle, 29 the 10th prime. But if the Saints go into the Cowboys 3-0, Cowboys does equal 33, which is true, but what I meant to write is Cowboys in the most pure cipher is 30. So they could go into that Cowboys game 3-0. And the Saints have a good riddle to win in Seattle next week, like I said. If the Saints win next week in Seattle, Seattle will fall to 4-4 in Seattle versus the Saints. Seattle's 44. Saints is 44. This game's on Breeze's 243rd day of his age. Remember, there's a relationship with 243 and 54. Drew Brees equals 54. New Orleans 54. So this could be a very symbolic game right here. Caller?
Hey, what's going on, Zach?
What's up, man?
I'm good. I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on something. I know we've been throwing a couple Super Bowl scenarios around with the possibly Packers, Chiefs, possibly Saints, Chargers. But my only problem with that, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, is why would Brady have come back?
I agree, man. I agree. Brady. I wanted Brady to retire so bad this offseason, man, because he is the monkey wrench. So,
and that's a big monkey wrench to me. And I like what the guy was saying about the Chargers, and I don't know if he's a big Chargers fan, why he speaks about the Chargers, but that's my biggest issue with it. It's like why would Brady come back? You know, he could have perfectly just retired, story over after he won his sixth, so.
And we got to think about this with Brady. The season began on his 37th day of his age. Patriots is 37. 37's the 12th prime. He wears the number 12. If the Patriots went to one more Super Bowl, it would be number 12.
Exactly. And not just that, I missed earlier, so I don't know if you spoke about it, but going back to that Miami-New England game from last year with the 33 points scored, did you see anything else symbolic in that game besides the 33?
Wait a minute. Are we talking about last year's Miami Miracle game?
Yeah, the Patriots at Miami, right?
Right. So the score was what was the score before the touchdown? It was. Let me just pull up the Miami.
So it was 33-27, I believe, right?
And 33-27, and then it went 34-33.
Yeah.
So earlier I was just talking about how Rob Gronkowski was on the field, and he's kind of the guy that made the play happen. And if I remember right, it was 209 days after his birthday. Miami Dolphins is 209. This year, Brady's going for his 209th regular season win by beating the Dolphins. Brady has a losing record in Miami. He's 7-10 in Miami for his career. And the numbers 7 and 11 show up together a lot. So just like, God, wouldn't that just shock the betting world if Miami, after getting humiliated, came back and beat the Patriots this week? But
yeah, I mean, I'm not so worried about that game because I'm going to stay away from it. I'm just more interested in what the game's going to foreshadow. but just based in the NFL, like what they've done in history, the same way they gifted Peyton Manning all his championships in great weather scenarios, and the way they gave Brady a lot of his championships. This one is in Brady's worst place.
Well, you make a great point, and it's something everybody should think about.
Yeah. I just kind of I wanted you to sit on that and just kind of like see if you come up with anything. That's the only reason I brought it up, because I've been thinking about it for a while, and I still haven't come up with an answer.
What I would do here's what we need to do. We need to look at the Patriots head-to-head records with I think 3 teams in the NFC. If the Patriots were going to be there, I think they'd either face the Packers, the Saints, or the Cowboys. I think it would have to be one of those 3 teams. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. No, I'm going to continue to pay attention, but I just thought, since you had a free minute, I just asked you about it because it's just been racking my brain. I would love to see another scenario. I'm not a Patriots fan or a Saints fan, but I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it and get some futures in.
Sure.
Even though I bet all 3, but I want to lay one more heavier than the other 2.
Yeah. No, I hear you. So. Okay, yeah, we'll do that, man. And I do encourage you in your free time to take a look at the head-to-head records between the Patriots and those 3 teams, because there could be a big clue in there that syncs with the Super Bowl. So.
Yeah, no, I will. If I get anything, I'll give you a call.
All right, appreciate it, man.
Have a good night.
All right, yeah, you too. Yeah, so here's Gronkowski last year. The play was 209 days. For the person who just tried to call in, I'm sorry I didn't answer it in time. You can call back. But that play was 209 days after Gronkowski's birthday. This year, Brady's going for the 209th regular season win against the Dolphins. So I was just saying about this Saints game. Again, they're going for the 34th win against the Rams, exactly 34 weeks after the blown call in the NFC Championship. I noticed the game's on Drew Brees' 243rd day of his age. We learned that there's an astrological relationship with 243 and 54. The planet Venus equals 54. 1 day on Venus is 243 days on Earth. We know there's a football relationship here because the death of Darryl Drake, the Steelers wide receiver coach, he died on the anniversary of the establishment of the Packers, August 11th. Darryl Drake equals 54. He died 243 days after his birthday. And Pittsburgh Steelers is 243. Caller?
Hey, Zach.
What's up, man?
Hey, Jonathan, what's going on?
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, man, come on, man. Like, what I'm saying is that if the Patriots go back to the Super Bowl, come on, bro. Come on, like, if people don't wake up after this, dude, come on, like, how many Super Bowls can they, are they going to win 80 Super Bowls in a row? I mean, if they go back to the Super Bowl and win it, it's going to be so obvious. Like, people should already know how rigged the NFL is and scripted by now.
Especially after Monday Night Football. After this last Monday Night Football, the NFL shouldn't have any fans anymore.
Oh my God, dude! I was sitting in my nephew's dorm. My nephew plays cornerback for Florida State. And so anyway, I'm sitting in his dorm and watching the game. It was the end of the game when I got there, and then Houston scored. It's funny because he doesn't even watch football. He plays. He's a starting cornerback on Florida State. He doesn't even watch football. But I was watching it. I was sitting there, right? Houston scored, right?
Right.
And then so New Orleans. So then there's 37 seconds left, and I told him that's too much time for Drew Brees. I said all he's gonna do is just go barely past the 50-yard line, and they're gonna kick a long ass field goal, and they're gonna win the game. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I said, look at that kick. I said, bro, look at the ball. Look at the way the ball's spinning, man. That's not a natural. There's a machine in that ball. Can't you tell? There's a drone in that ball. I was like, that's just not. I don't think a human being can kick a ball that far, that accurately. And I was like, look at all the force behind that ball. And then he was looking at it. He was thinking about it. He was like, yeah. I was like, come
seriously,
on, man. I said,
seriously, there was a kick. I can't remember who kicked it. I think it was Zerline. There was a kick that would have been good from like over 70 yards this week. I was like, look at how that ball just like flew. I think it was a 57-yard field goal, but it just like roasted through the uprights. I was just like, you don't see kicks from that distance that fly through like that.
It's no way possible, dude. It's like remember that year, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and they were playing the Giants. It was early in the season. and then the kicker kicks a 61-yarder to win the game.
In Philadelphia, 61. He was the rookie kicker. Yep, that was week 3 where we were catching on to that Eagles-Patriots riddle.
I'm like, dude, come on. Like, it's like, I don't understand how people can't. Like, I've woken up a lot of people, but people still actually believe this game is real. It's like, come on, you have to be brain dead. It's like, come on. If the Patriots go back to the Super Bowl, I really think that's going to wake a lot of people up. Dude, this dude's 43 years old, dude. 42 years old.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I mean, dude, if the NFL was real, there's no way possible his back wouldn't have been cracked by now. Like,
right.
You know, like he'd be so messed up, he'd be in a wheelchair, dude.
Right.
But
Indeed.
of course, they don't let him touch it. You can't touch Brady, of course.
Of course, they make new rules.
But I like your thoughts on Kansas City versus Green Bay, or New Orleans versus
Chargers.
LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm leaning toward.
Yeah. All right, appreciate it, Jonathan. Great points, man.
Yeah, I'll let you get back to it.
All right, take care. See you.
Peace.
All right, so I'm thinking the Saints are going to get vengeance here. Just why else would it be 34 weeks after the game? There's a reason they did that. The only concern is the Saints do have 34 all-time wins, and it is a 43-date numerology. They could become 34 and 43 all-time, but again, I just always see the regular season stats trump the all-time stats. Or I shouldn't say always, but by far the majority of the time. And if it's a law of averages thing, you got to go with the law of averages. Again, there's also a riddle here for the Saints to begin 3-0 and go into that Cowboys game, because last year that was a big game. And then, like I was saying, Drew Brees, 243rd day of his age. And I was just trying to show you on the screen that the Super Bowl's on Robert Kraft's 243rd day of his age. When I saw that, I said, oh my God. And remember, there's a whole astrology piece. He had the sexual solicitation charge in Jupiter, Florida. I'm gonna have to. I know that was all perfectly synced up with Super Bowl 53. If I remember right, it was 53 days after Super Bowl 53. But I'm gonna have to look at that story in light of the upcoming Super Bowl in case there's something there. So Breeze, his next regular season win is 157, which is the 37th prime, and Los Angeles is 37. But the trick here is his next loss is also 109 in the regular season, and Los Angeles is just straight up 109. So that makes it a little bit dicey. But again, I'm just looking at these regular season stats. 34 weeks later, staying on 41 losses in LA. So... And let me see what else is there. Jared Goff could get his 28th win all-time, but again, I'm not trying to go to the all-time stats. I'm looking at the regular season. In the regular season, he is 11-8 at home. Remember, all the date numerology breaks down to 9. I guess I didn't write that here. He could get his 9th home loss. Or he could get his 12th win. Saints is 37, the 12th prime. Caller?
Yeah, and I kind of got the, Saints going all the way too, but another thing about Tom Brady that, kind of scares me is his postseason record. He has 30 wins. Let's say if he wins the divisional, the AFC Championship, and the Super Bowl, that'll be 33. 33.
And he did start the season off on the perfect day and scored 33 points. Yeah.
So, so that's my only concern. But other than that, Drew Brees looks pretty good.
Drew Brees has that very strong connection to 54. He does.
But yeah, I just wanted to throw that note in.
All right, appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's a great point. Thank you.
All right, peace.
So Tom Brady could get his 33rd playoff win. Here, let's just double check it right here. I trust him, but I'm just going to verify it real quick. And 10 in the postseason. It is possible he could play in 3 playoff games. I was thinking he was going to play in that first round of the playoffs, because if he won there, he'd be 5-4. Doesn't have to be that way, but it's possible. So anyway, in Goff's record, you can make an argument for a win or loss. The Saints do have the 37 connection, the 12th prime, but Goff's next opponent at home is the Buccaneers, which is 37, the 12th prime too. So they'd be a great team to get the 12th home one against. And if Goff did lose, he'd be 1-3 versus the Saints, LA 13. So I'm smelling revenge because it kind of feels like that's what sports does. You know, Virginia humiliates itself in the college basketball tournament, and then the next year they come back and win the championship. Got to give you that feel-good story. So, the Eagles and Falcons game, the over-under has climbed, and Philadelphia has become the favorite. At the beginning of the week, it was even. Remember last week I said I like Carson Wentz to win last week so that he could get his 25th win this week over the Falcons. Falcons 25. I just see Falcons 25 riddles show up so often, it's pretty much impossible for me to ignore that. So I do like Wentz getting his 25th regular season win over the Falcons. He can get his 9th away win. Date numerology breaks down to 9. And Atlanta, Georgia's 59, the 17th prime if he stayed on 17 regular season losses. Well, we got a caller here. Caller?
Yeah, Zach, I just wanted to bring one thing up. So I think I might have said it before, but I don't know if you remember. So Drew Brees is chasing Peyton Manning for a couple of records, not only the touchdown records, but the yardage records, career yardage.
Okay.
And so is Tom Brady, though. So here's what I'm thinking. By the end of the year, both Tom Brady, he's 1,000 short of Peyton Manning, or something like that. By the end of the year, both Drew Brees and Tom Brady are going to pass Peyton Manning for the most touchdowns and the most yards ever in history. And they're setting it up for like a greatest quarterback of all time storyline.
Sure.
Because Drew Brees would have beaten Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. And this might be kind of vague, but I wrote out the word greatest, and it equals 32 in the purest form. And Drew Brees was drafted round 2, pick 32.
I'll tell you what, if that's the Super Bowl, I'm taking Drew Brees to win because he's going to be 41 years old, the Super Bowl number, just like Brady was last year. So
exactly, and it kind of ties in. I know that guy is a strong believer of the Chargers and the Manning thing, but the Manning thing is already tied in because Drew Brees already beat him, and that's his only Super Bowl so far. So right now, the only reason that I could think Tom Brady came back was just to get, so Drew Brees could beat him.
I hear you.
That's the way I'm thinking.
In my head, I have Dick Vitale's voice from last year too, because he guaranteed the Super Bowl was going to be Brady and Brees last year. So maybe he was really foreshadowing this year. So.
And look at that. That's weird too. Like Brady and Brees, BND.
On 2-2. February 2-2, right? B, the second letter. Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring up the records thing because I know records are real important, especially when things like that are going to get broken in the NFL. Most yardage, most touchdowns. They're going to be hyping that shit up a lot.
I would say that's a great third scenario for the Super Bowl. If we have 3 scenarios right now, if we have a Saints-Chargers scenario, a Saints-Patriots, and a Packers-Chiefs, I would say those are 3 scenarios that make a lot of sense. So.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to remind you of the record so we can pay attention to that. That's it.
Yeah. Great point. Thanks, man. All right. Take care.
Bye.
All right, so anyway, Wentz can get that 25th win, stay at 17 losses. Both those numbers connect to Falcons in Atlanta, Georgia. Get the 9th away win on an appropriate date. And the devil's advocate narrative is if Wentz didn't win, he'd stay on 24 wins to face the Lions next, and Lions is 24. So, but just the way the Falcons put out 25, I'm saying, how doesn't that happen? Just like for the same reason I said that last week. Caller?
Hey, so New Orleans Saints is 64-98. Drew Brees can beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and Brady can fall to 6-4 in Super Bowls.
That would be a good point, yeah.
And also, Hard Rock Stadium is 66. Right now, the Patriots are 6-5 in Super Bowls.
Yeah, they could become 6-6, huh? NFL 66, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the strongest reads we got on all three scenarios. I mean,
It makes a lot of sense. And Dick
yeah,
Vitale
I
really
like the
didn't
story
guarantee that was going to be the Super
Drew Brees
Bowl.
takes out
Yeah.
that one guy who everybody hates and the team that everybody hates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's looking pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All
right, yeah. Appreciate it. All right. So. Okay, if Ryan lost this week, he'd get his 30th home loss in the regular season. Eagles is 113, the 30th prime. And let's see. You could also make an argument that he could become 3-0 at home against the Eagles. So, but again, I just know Falcons and Panthers went to their Super Bowls. They've just been crappy. So, that's that. Quinn can stay on 36 regular season wins on the 36 date numerology as well, and I guess I can do the Eagles note here for him as well. 113 30th prime. So the way him and Ryan both pick up the 30th loss, or the way they both sync with the Eagles is by picking up a 30th loss. Quinn and Ryan. Okay, Browns and Jets Monday Night Football again. I even said it last week. I started to see what was wrong because I was like, I'm still really sore about the Titans Browns because I changed my initial thought. I hate when I change my initial thought and get it wrong. Anyway, if Mayfield wins this week, he's 7-8. Cleveland 78, New York 78, Trevor Siemian 78, who's playing. So it's Monday Night Football. It's Mayfield's 156th day of his age. If you write out 33, it equals 156. MNF's 33. This past Monday Night Football, we saw Drew Brees get his 156th win in the regular season. And that's something else I want you guys to think about with Drew Brees. This year he won on 9-9, right? On 9-9, Drew Brees is 99. Last year he lost on 9-9. So what's that mean? Does that mean this is Drew Brees' year? Because it very well might. And we were pointing this out last year. Last year, if you guys weren't following me the whole season, at the beginning of the season, I thought the best Super Bowl scenario was Patriots over Rams. And after I saw the major rituals the Saints were getting, I was just like, oh, man, maybe it's going to be the Saints. And by the end of the season, I started to favor the Saints over the Rams because I was hedging. And it ended up being the Rams and the Patriots, which was the best 53 riddle because the Rams had the 53 connection. The Saints didn't. And I was saying all last year, I was like, the Saints got the 54 connections. You know, Drew Brees is going to turn 41 years old before next year's Super Bowl. So that's kind of like the thought from going back over a year. But anyway, Mayfield getting to 7-8, I don't see how that doesn't happen. Overlap with both cities. You even got the backup. That's probably why you have this mono thing, right? Because Trevor Siemian 78. So mono and mononucleosis both equal 57, like New York Jets, by the way. Let's see. Siemian could get his 12th regular season loss and all-time loss. It'll be 37 date numerology, the 12th prime. MNF is 12, so that's pretty incriminating for Siemian. The game's on 16/9, kind of like 169, which has a square root of 13. He could stay on 13 wins in the regular season. And now that I think about it, I think Browns is 91, which is the 13th triangular. Also, if Mayfield wins, he'll be 3-5 away. Browns is 35, so a nice away record for a Browns QB. So anyway, I think that looks pretty good for Monday Night Football. You got your 33 ritual there. You got overlap numbers. You got both QBs making sense with a win and a loss. 8 date numerology for this game. So let's wrap it up there. I am going to be back tomorrow. I just wanted to go over this, get the brains churning, show you what games I think are good. There's a few there I like. Don't be greedy. Some weeks, baseball and football are kind of the same. Just like some weeks, just like it's like a gold mine with the NFL, just like everything lines up. Some weeks, you only find 4 or 5 games you really like. So take what's there. Don't be greedy. And again, there is a big upset on the board this week. So Banking on that one. All right, let's wrap it up, you guys. Gonna update the notes. They are linked on the Patreon page. Make sure you got your link to the notes. Scan them, see what your own eyeballs see, and we'll be back tomorrow. Have a hold on before I go. Actually, let me read over the chat. Let's see. So, Chris likes the Rams. But I remember Chris, you're doing the same thing as last year. You know, talking big factual. I remember last year, you know, New York Giants were going to win the Super Bowl. You were ready to bet the house on it. So, you could be right, but make sure you come with some good information to back up your points. Let's see. Let's see. Chris wants his Giants to hit this week. Yeah, I think the Giants didn't look good last week to me. I mean, both things lined up for Dak and the coach to beat the Giants. I thought that was a good read. You guys did take me off it with your Manning narrative, but not surprised that they didn't win that one. So, let's see. Yeah, Manning has quite a few things that line up. What's up, Johnny? Good to see you, man. So, yeah, so Manning is going for the 117th win. Buffalo Bills is 117. 63rd home win on the 63-date numerology. If that doesn't happen, it's like, how doesn't it? So, all right. Good to see you guys in the chat. We will be back tomorrow, so we got time to marinate. I'm going to see if I can pull out some more things that maybe I'm overlooking right now. But be sure to come over those notes with your own eyes. All right. Have a good evening, and we'll be back tomorrow. Until next time.